Hello everyone, today I'm trying something a little bit different with Arana's release. I'm going to be showcasing the top 4 best performing decks that she's had according to Untapped. I'm going to be leaning into both the top 10% infinite stats and 100 plus. So anybody that is in infinite, the stats will apply. I'll showcase and show both of the stats that I was able to pull on these decks. So the structure of this video is going to be, I'll go through one deck explanation, I'll showcase a couple of games with said deck, and then I'll jump into the next deck explanation, showcase a few games, so on and so forth, until all 4 have been showcased, and then I'll do a quick 30-second summary on where I rank each of the decks and how viable I think each of them are going to be. So the first deck that we are featuring today is a movement Arana shell. So the only movement Arana shell that I've really seen hold decent stats over a pretty substantial sample size. This one leans into just pure movement. It is looking to do the Craven Doctor Strange Cloak, and then you have the Madam Web Arana to really elevate any of your movement cards that you draw into, and then we have Beast to be able to pull those back in. So one thing to worry about with this deck is that it falls to the same thing as other Glass Cannon decks. Shadow King, Shang-Chi, and if you lean heavily into the Human Torch, potentially Killmonger. So if you can play heads up and you anticipate those counter cards coming down, you can sometimes play around them with like a Beast to pull your Human Torch back in on turn number 5 so that you can play it for free on 6 alongside your Heimdall. Gives you phenomenal value, phenomenal reach. Maybe you even pull in an Iron Fist and a Ghost Spider as well so that you can really start elevating your Human Torch. Then you can start moving your Dagger, your Vulture, and the other cards that are already staged on the board. With Madam Web, we have a lot of flexibility in where our cards end up. This one, I think, is relatively straightforward. Movement has a lot of power, a lot of big benefit on the board, and the one good thing is that it can hit a high roll that is above a Hela deck. So as far as power output, fantastic upper range. Now, there is currently a bug with Ghost Spider. You have to be kind of cautious where sometimes she won't move the last card played. So a lot of times I've seen it linked to Beast bouncing her back in, but I also had one turn where I used Arana and Iron Fist on the same turn and she didn't pull the card as I would have expected, and I ended up losing because of it. So just until that is fixed, be cautious and be aware of leaning too heavily onto that last turn Ghost Spider pull. As far as the stats go, in top 10% infinite, this had the best performing stats of any of the Arana decks that I saw. It was 1.3 average cubes per game, 72.7% win rate over the span of 33 games. Now, these are all going to be relatively low sample sizes because she's only been out for a day, but it gives you a good starting spot to know what kind of deck she's performing well in already, and then maybe you tweak it and optimize it further depending on other changes that you see in the game. But 72.7% win rate is incredible. Top 10% infinite. Whoever was running this, it could have been just one person that ran it for the 33 games. They were absolutely dominating and cleaning up with it. As far as the expanded stats on all of Infinite, so anybody that has reached 100 plus, it held a 56.1% win rate over 98 games, still averaging a cube rate of 0.45, which is really solid for a deck that is anybody in Infinite. That tells me that it is performing well at a wide range, but as you get better with the deck and with Archetype, you can perform even better on the upper end. So very potent, very good home for Arana. We're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of the games for this deck, and then we'll break down deck number 2 afterwards. Power, just a casual 23 power Dagger. Vulture sends over into Ashford M. We have the Cloak. We have the Titanium that we are going to give them, unfortunately, because they didn't play a card. They didn't move anything. So we'll see. The Iron Fist pushes Iron Fist over, and so now they're locked out here. It helps our Craven. Unfortunate for them. A misorder that I don't think it would have mattered. Even if they had played it in the correct order, I think we would have been all right. So the big Sage coming into play here. This would have went 12-24. Ooh, maybe it would have made a difference. Iron Fist coming here, had it not pushed over, 12-24, would have been 28. Could have made a little bit of a difference. We will take the 4 though. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right. Next up we have Marco 24. First location, Wakanda Embassy, would have been beautiful for a Human Torch line, but unfortunately we did not have it. They are running an Arisham deck, which is not one that you see all that often. Great Web coming into play, which is huge. I'm going to go ahead and throw Craven in there. think with that, we snap into it. Just with the scaling Great Web is going to provide, even if we eventually do Heimdall to shift out of it, we have a couple of our movement cards in Iron Fist, Ghost Spider, and Doctor Strange. All we need is one of those scalers. So they have Nakia buffing up the cards in their hand, but of course our Kraven is getting buffed in the process too. Hellfire Club, you get Arana down. So I think I'm going to go Arana, let it pull into Great Web. We're not even going to stage like the Iron Fist or anything yet. All right, so big thing coming in. Kraven getting bumped up. Let's see, Cloak. Okay. Not any good scalers so far. I'll do Cloak and maybe just Cloak. Let it pull over into Great Web, and I'll move cards out of Great Web. I don't know. So Snowguard Bear, we're looking to cap it out. They have a set 21 power, but of course they can move cards out now because of our Cloak, which I think is probably fine. And then Beast. Oh my goodness. All of our scalers. We have 3 good scalers here, and they were all at the very bottom of the deck. So maybe it becomes like Iron Fist, Ghost Spider, Beast. That way we get a scaler, we can play it for free. We can play these 2 for free next turn. And then we need to move one of these cards out of Great Web so we have space. Or I guess we'll move it into the Hellfire Club. We'll Beast the left lane, see what they ended up playing with. So Snowguard Hawk, the locations are turned off. Nothing is going to free move into Kraven lane. The big speed. So far we haven't seen any of their cards. I think you're kind of interesting. So the free Iron Fist, free Ghost Spider, and then we have Arana into the Vulture line. So with an Iron Fist stage, we can hold activate. We go left, buff up Kraven, right. Vulture ends up being the highest power card. So then we could Ghost Spider, pull it back over one more time to continue scaling the Kraven lane, and then something like Doctor Strange. I'm going to go Doctor Strange to the right. That's where we're going to want to end up. So wherever the Vulture ends up is fine. We have to look out for Eliath. Miss Marvel, okay. Not all that marvelous for him. I don't know if I think we'll probably win mid with how many times these cards are going to move back and forth. So 12, rip it out with Arana, jump back to the left with Ghost Spider. And it's the 4-power Ghost Spider. Wait. Oh, no. I'm counting that as a win, because that should have been a win. Yet it wasn't. All right, next up we have Vosh. The first location is Titan, so we could potentially play our Heimdall and one of the 1 costs a little bit easier on the final turn. We have our big enablers. We have several of our big enablers. In our Madam Web, we have the Vulture, the Dagger line, and the opponent is running an Arisham deck. They got their Cable that they did tech into their deck. It's always interesting now that Arisham is a little bit less common to see what cards people end up stacking into it. So we can go ahead and go Vulture mid. That's going to be our biggest early scaler other than like a Human Torch. But of course we want to protect our Human Torch by any way, shape, or form by typically like pulling it back in with a Beast if we're worried about a Killmonger. So we do get Heimdall down. They pulled our Madam Web out of the mid lane with their Spider-Man, unfortunately. But The good thing is we do have Doctor Strange. So Doctor Strange will move Vulture over to the left. We can move it out. We can, depending on what we draw, we have to play into mid next turn, which is a little bit clunky for us, unfortunately. Because we have like the dagger, we want to beast things back in. We want to be able to play into the Madam Web lane, and they just made it really tough to do so. Cloak. Cloak is not bad. We can go Vulture, Cloak, Beast. That way we can reposition the Cloak, because we have that extra 1 cost to utilize, which we're typically not going to be able to enable our dagger much. So I think that's all right. So the big Craven in the right lane, they have our Ghost Spider that they got from Cable. Not huge for them by any means. The Colossus comes down, not huge either. The Jeff, so they're not completely locked into mid, but they're not completely out of the water either. We can go Craven, Vulture. That moves all of them here. We could then try like a Cloak in Heimdall. Or we just need 14 power. We have the 5. We can do a Vulture move. We can do a Cloak into Heimdall. It's going to move the Vulture here, move it over to the left. This is 9 plus 8, or 9 plus 10. It's going to be 19 power here. They move the Jeff out. They could potentially overpower us in mid. It just comes down to if they get the read right or where they put their big plays. Shadow King offsets our Vulture, unfortunately. Leader comes down. Not huge for them by any means, because it doesn't have space in mid for them to be able to scale that. We do get the movement of Vulture, so we win the left lane. We win mid. We lose right. They can have it. Even if we had played our Heimdall to the right, at that point they would have copied it with Leader, but we were able to have the Heimdall shift to be able to find the way to win. We will take it. And with that one, we are going to go ahead and jump over into the next deck. All right, so our next deck explanation, deck number 2, is a Clutter one. My personal favorite, and if you're seeing a lot of Hela matches, Clutter is fantastic. It derails their plan by being able to stop them from being able to resummon in 1 or maybe 2 of the lanes, and then all you have to do is beat the power that's there. And with this deck, we can definitely do that. This deck leans heavily into the movement components of Arana and Madam Web, and then we have the Iron Fist Ghost Spider to be able to have some incredibly explosive last turn plays. Being able to double, triple move a dagger is crazy. You're pretty much going to beat anything that the opponent could have in one lane, and if you've capped them out and stopped them from playing in another, you have a known solved power level to be able to beat. A lot of times you can do that by recalling your Titanium back onto your side of the board, and then you're just dominating the board state. We have Cannonball as an alternate line, so if we didn't get our movement pieces, Cannonball can be a way to win one lane, and then recalling Titanium back on the cluttered lane for the opponent can give us enough tempo to win another. As far as the stats on this deck go, it is a 49 game sample size, 61.2% win rate, 0.53 average cubes gained per game in top 10% infinite. Now, where this one starts to falter is in Anywhere Infinite Plus. This one had a flat 50% win rate, an average cube gained of 0.17 over 86 games. So what this tells me is that it is a really high skill ceiling deck. You have to be able to play it well and really think through those play lines to find the avenues to win. But if you can do that, it absolutely can find the paths to victory. It's just you're going to have to get used to the archetype first. So you may have to play this deck more than you would play or pick up something like Hela that is really straightforward and linear. This one may have a little bit of a learning curve to really get optimized with it. We're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of the games, and then we'll continue with deck number 3 afterwards. The extra reach. I think they're going to trick themselves into staying, which they definitely should not. But the Dazzler stays the same. We have mid heavily locked away, and then Marvel Boy is no longer a concern. Arana yanking the grapple arrow to the right, and we will win that lane by even more than we already had. We'll take the 2 cubes. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Destroyer. Destroyer. The first location is Tinker's Workshop, so we could do a double drop. We have Arana. I'll stop giggling because of the emotes. I do like all of the extra emotes in the game. I get a good laugh or giggle out of them so often. All right, let's go ahead and go Kate Bishop. Having the Arana to help enable like a vulture or a dagger and scale it even further is amazing. So Stark Tower in the right lane. Have Ghost Spider, so we could always Arana vulture. But I think I would rather do Debris left because Jeff can move. So that's no longer our focus on getting that lane capped out. I would rather focus on cluttering up the others. So Elsa Bloodstone, it looks like maybe like a Kitty Pryde deck. Ooh, an Iron Fist as well. So we have a lot of reach capability. I'm not going to go with the triple clutter here because I don't know that we'd be able to pull it off. Instead, we're gonna do the stutter step, which is play Vulture into like mid. It goes left, goes right with Arana. So it's just gonna stutter step just ever so slightly. Let's play basic arrow into Stark Tower. And they do double drop in the left, so nothing in the right lane. We would need to be able to fill. Oh wait, I didn't play Iron Fist. Oh my goodness, what am I doing? Rough stuff. So their copycat ended up being White Widow, which clutters up our space a little bit further. We don't like to see. What I do like to see though is like a Titania into Green Goblin into Acid Arrow right, to clutter their space here, cap them out here, and then it just comes down to if we can be explosive enough elsewhere to win. And they do play one card in the right, so the Athena. They're going to have one space free to play, which is beautiful. That means that their Athena can't scale on turn 6. They're very restricted. If they move the Jeff over, that pushes it into Stark Tower, but that's going to be about it. So if we can top deck our Cannonball, perfect. Otherwise, we're looking at hoping for like a Dagger line. Dagger could give us quite a bit. We also have a big lead over here anyways, so maybe it's not even necessary. Just like a Cannonball and then Iron Fist that gives us 6, brings them down to 12. Wow. Brings them down to 7, and we go well above the 7. So we're going to go ahead and play this one out. I'm not going to snap into it. It's way too late in the game. And Alioth actually in the right could be scary. Shang-Chi also relatively scary. We're going to take out their Athena. So no harm, no foul. We are still able to hold this one down just with how much space we took away from them in our clutter tools. We were able to find a way to full cap them and find a way to win. We'll grab the 2 cubes. Go ahead and jump over into the next. All right, next up we have Zod. The first location is Sanctum Sanctorum, which we do have the ability to get some cards positioned over there. We have our movement cards in Iron Fist, Ghost Spider, Dagger, but we are going to hold off and wait on it for now. So Elysium, wow. So we get a lot of extra reach. Let's just go Kate Bishop for now. And I want to hold Dagger in the movement cards until late in the game. That way we can guarantee that she's going to be a 12, 24 power behemoth when they have those stacked lanes. We could also use like an Iron Fist to just position like a small card over into Sanctum Sanctorum so that we can win that one, and then use the Dagger Ghost Spider combo as a way to win one of the other lanes. So the Mirage, the Pixie, we have to look out for everything that the Pixie deck can potentially do. But if we can cap out this right lane, then we will be a-okay. Asteroid M is an interesting one. We don't have a way to full clutter the Asteroid M location yet, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and stage out our Arana. Green Goblin in mid will push over into the right lane, which is where we want it to be. But I don't want to play it directly there just in case maybe they cap it out. I want to make sure we have the flexibility just in case. So the Ghost Spider pulls their Pixie over. They do play one card into Astrid M, being the Mobius. Oof. And that is why they snapped on us. It's okay, because all of our remaining cards are relatively cheap. It's not awful. They're really limited on space to play so far, or remaining. And we have 2 turns left. So I want to snap back here. No, we don't want to activate Arana yet. Let's just go White Widow. And maybe Pim Arrow. You know what? I'm not even going to play Pim Arrow. I'm going to snap back just the White Widow on the right to make sure that they can't play anything else into Astrid M for the last 2 turns. And then we have a couple of ways to position power into the Sanctum Sanctorum. So, whoa, a Liege. Okay, well, that is rather rude. They do cap themselves out in mid and right, though. Interestingly enough, their cards are going to be essentially free. Ours stay at the same cost, but they cap themselves out on the board. Let's go Iron Fist, Arana, Dagger. I'm going to go ahead and play Pim Arrow as well. No, I'm going to go ahead and play Basic Arrow. Make sure I did the right order. So Iron Fist, activate Arana, move the Dagger out, probably hitting 3, maybe 6 power, and then shifting back over to get 12 here. And so it should be enough for us into the Basic Arrow right, which we can follow up. We can follow up in mid with the Cannonball. That line's fine as well. Ooh, interesting. The Copycat, and then the Alioth. We knew that an Alioth was in the works, the potential play, and so that's why I didn't want to play anything directly into that last lane. I just considered that a loss lane, because these other 2 are solved power states that we can use to win. And so the Dagger double scaling here, 3 is much more than what I thought it was going to scale off of. And so now all we have to do is beat the Elysium lane, and we are good to go. We do force the retreat. We will not kneel before Zod. I feel like that's a phrase. May not be. I may be making stuff up. And then our next deck is Arana, Deadpool, Destroy. This version leans into just high rolling your Deadpool as high as humanly possible, with both Arana and Hulkbuster being able to really start snowballing your Deadpool as early as turn 3. You'll be able to really often get a 24, 48 power Deadpool, which of course means that your Null is really big. And so on the last turn, you can drop Null plus Deadpool plus potentially a Death and just absolutely dominate anything that the opponent could potentially want to be doing. Now, with this one, we have Nico. Nico is absolutely core at potentially drawing into additional cards, so you're really going to be focusing on, most of the time, using her as a destroy spell. If you do have Deadpool in hand, you can use her to start snowballing your Deadpool with the +2 power on the next card that you play spell, and it can get really crazy, really fast. This one is straightforward destroy. It is tried and true. There's not a whole lot of differences that you can make. You could take out Hulkbuster, you could put in Shang-Chi, you could put in Arnim Zola, but from my personal testing, Hulkbuster performs much, much better. As far as the stats go, in top 10% Infinite, we have 26 games with a 61.5% win rate, which is great for a destroy deck, and an average cubes gained of 0.65. So this is a pretty good average cubes gained per game played, especially for destroy. Destroy being a relatively common or known deck output. A lot of times in top 10% Infinite, you see Destroy drop off to around 0.1, 0.2 cubes per game, and this one is absolutely blowing that out of the water so far. As far as all of Infinite, it does improve a little bit as well, going from 61.5 up to 63.2. The average cubes are increased up to 0.84 average cubes per game over the sample size of 57. So this tells me that it runs even better in lower Infinite, where maybe other players aren't as aware of how crazy destroy decks can get, and this one can just absolutely just explode power all across the board. We're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of the games for this deck, and then we will finish up with deck number 4 afterwards. I'm going to go Deadpool, Death, X23, Venom. There is a small chance that this caps us out in the left lane, but the reason I'm playing Death for that destroy is it's going to pump up our Null, So between Deadpool being 20 power, Null being 30 something, I think we have a good chance of just being able to outshine them. So they didn't play anything on 5. Super unfortunate for the Hella line. X23 bounces in the mid, so we're not going to cap out the left lane. Venom coming in huge over here. We have the 38 power Null, the 20 power Deadpool. We could potentially stack them together if we were worried about just them getting an incredibly high roll. A potential Magneto discard could be problematic. But right now they've discarded 2 cards, one being Red Hulk, and then, or 3 cards, one being Red Hulk, and then whatever 2 come down with Hellcow. I think we're in a perfectly fine spot, honestly. Let's do Null, and I'm gonna stack the 2 together, and then we'll see what happens. So their big death, whoa, just a death? Okay, death was free. Never mind. That's silly. And then the Hella. All right, so Blade, fine. We need some good stacking. Corvus, also fine. Wasn't great for their resummons, and then all they have is Red Hulk left. And so Corvus slots over to the left. We dominate left, dominate right. The Red Hulk pops into mid, but even had it popped into left, popped into right, we had enough power across the board that it just was not enough. And so we were able to strong arm the Hella deck. Let's take it, jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Seidler. The first location is Mojo World. Let's go ahead and play out our Arana. We do have a Deadpool, so we can start snowballing him right off the jump, which is beautiful to see. Another Hella deck, which is also beautiful for us to see. Let's go Arana, Deadpool move. I'm going to move it to the right, and we're just going to hope that it's not an awful location, because we don't want to be stuck in the middle lane. So Deadpool's going to start at 3. Whenever we kill him once, 6, which is just so much value. If we can get Hulkbuster, it gets really crazy, even crazier, even faster. Speaking of, and I was going to say it wouldn't really be worth it to hold off on destroying it one turn just for the Hulkbuster, because it's just going to be right now the same as if we had destroyed him one additional time, and it would take that one additional turn. But with Sakaar, we have a 2 out of 3 chance to pull into one of those destroy engines, so we start snowballing the Deadpool right off the jump. So they have Luke Cage. Oh, what are the chances? Awful. They go Blink, which rotates their Luke Cage into Ganto, which is a giant offering in the left lane. Unfortunate falter in the right. I'm going to go Venom. It's going to maintain the 21 power in the right lane. It does help our Null, but I much rather would have gotten the Destroy last turn and then Venomed the 12 power Deadpool, but all is fine. All is not lost. We're going to destroy it again next turn, so it'll be 24 power Deadpool, and it'll be a little bit iffy. We'll probably have to compete for mid and right and just let them have the left lane. That's what my gut's telling me. We have Venom. Let's go. Okay. X23 Deadpool Carnage is great to see. That allows us to do the Null plus Deadpool. Otherwise, we were probably dead in the water. So you love to see it. Right now, they haven't discarded anything. So Blade, they now have discarded Infinite, but the right lane is also pretty hefty. A Hello here would cap them out, so Infinite and then Black Cat in the left. So the left lane is that solved power state, but unless X23 bounces to the left, I don't think in general we're going to be able to fit 4 cards back over there. X23 to the right is actually great. The 33 power Null, I think we can beat whatever is there, and then the 24 power Deadpool wins us the right lane as well. So Deadpool win right, Null mid wins here. Now we fall to a Magneto, super obscure Magneto line. What if we Null Deadpool? With them not being able to do Hella, they've already resummoned. The most they can typically do is going to be less than 24 anyways. So I think this is safer. A Magneto pulls our Venom. Null plus X23 wins the right lane. So that's what we're going to lean into here. Oh, wait. Okay, no, that's fine. I got so scared for a second. Death, Lady Sif. It's going to be all fine. We will take the 2 cubes against the Hella deck. And super interesting because when I was testing and playing and recording for the Clutter, I played 15 games and didn't see a single Hella deck. Everything else that I've played has been nothing but Hella. So take out of that what you will. We're going to go ahead and take the 2. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have POC. Or I thought it said POC. Next up we have Love You. Love you right back. We do have Deadpool.
Hello.
We have Hulkbuster. We have the early scaling. If we eventually get Arana, great. But having one or the other, if we can draw into Deadpool early, is so big. That means our scaling potential is huge. Now with Kiln, we do struggle a little bit getting into hard to reach locations because we did, for the Hulkbuster, we did end up cutting the like Arnhem Zola line. You could also go Shang-Chi instead of Hulkbuster, but I really like what Hulkbuster provides for us. So actually, we could do Hulkbuster into Deathlock, or we go ahead and stage the Nico into Hulkbuster next turn. Hulkbuster merges with Deadpool, destroys immediately. We don't have to use the Deathlock destroy trigger. And so Madam Web in the right lane, huge for him. Let's go. Uranium comes down. We do get Killmonger, so nice to see. Let's go Hulkbuster, merges, it gets destroyed. I'm going to throw probably the Vibranium into the left. At least decent. They're cluttered up a little bit in the right lane, but they can move their rock. We're going to clear the rocks as well, so we'll get a free death out of the deal. All right, so Hulkbuster merge with the Deadpool into the instant destroy. So 8 power Deadpool on turn 3. Turn 4 destroy at 16. Turn 5 32. Nastiness. And then Arana can help us snowball it a little bit as well. So the Jeff in the right lane, the Vibranium. Let's go with a good old... I'm just going to go Deadpool in mid. I'm going to go Deadpool Deathlock. Really concerned with the left lane, though. But I don't think, even if we played over there, I don't know that we would have been able to do much to win it anyways. So we would have to rely on like Wolverine bouncing over there or just being able to just outpower them here. So a Lockjaw Madam Web list is always a fun list for sure. We go Deadpool X23 Venom. Gives us high power in this right lane. Actually, Deadpool X23 Venom. That way we can do Null into the destroyed mansion, and we'll have the big Null. Wait, hold on. What? Okay, so the Lockjaw into Blink, into Jane Foster. Not what they were needing, I don't think. But we are going to have a big mid lane. If they have Shang-Chi, Shadow King, we could potentially fall to it. Because we can't place and position our Null here. But it's just a risk that we're going to be willing and need to take. 37 and then 32, we call it good. 37, I don't think they beat in the right lane with any kind of single rotation. Mid, I mean, unless it's a Shang-Chi rotation, Shadow King rotation. Shadow King rotation wouldn't do it. Shadow King mid would definitely do it, though. Oh, actually, we don't have initiative, so it doesn't matter. Unless they do Eliath in the right lane and they are able to snipe out our Null, will be the only way that we lose now. Hefty commitment into mid. Okay, so the Shang-Chi helps our Null to the right. And then Wasp. Yeah, that's not going to do it. We have the big Null. We have Deadpool. We're just able to overpower what they can do so dramatically. We will take the 2 cubes. And with that, we're going to go ahead and jump over into the next deck. For the final deck, we have a Storm, War Machine, Legion, Lockdown style of list. except for it uses Arana. So let's say we drop Storm, but we just don't quite win that location. We drop Ebony Maw, but we don't end up drawing our War Machine. We can still get power into that lane by activating Arana and pushing a card over into that lane. So typically we're going to want to Storm in either mid or right. Same thing with Ebony Maw. If we get the War Machine, the Legion, we can get really cheeky and we can beat just about any deck. Otherwise, we have some good power output in most cases. So we have the Nebula that allows the scaling, especially in a Stormed lane. White Widow, great early tempo, especially if we do end up going Storm, War Machine, Legion. We have Jeff. Again, if we get Storm, Legion, but no War Machine, Jeff can come in to save the day. We have Crossbones, which has his restriction removed if War Machine is in play, which makes him a lot more flexible, a lot easier to use. We have Jubilee to dig deeper into our deck, so if on turn 4 we're looking for War Machine or Legion, we can drop Jubilee into the Storm lane, or just later in the game knowing that we can pull into a big Infinite, a big Doctor Doom. It'd be devastating for the opponent. We have the Doctor Doom, which can help spread power all across the board, and then sometimes we're going to use Arana to double it up into the Ebony Maw lane to give us that little bit of extra reach to be able to win over whatever the opponent thought we were going to be playing. And then other times we're just going to dominate and slam down an Infinite on the last turn if we have 2 other lanes locked in place pretty healthily. And so as far as the stats for this deck, in top 10% Infinite, we have a 62.5% win rate over 40 games, average cube of 0.68 per game. If you extend this to all of Infinite, it is a 57.3% win rate, so it does go down just a little bit over the 75 game sample size and an average cube of 0.33. So what this tells me is that it's a little bit harder to play or to be able to read your snap lines. So being able to win more often by out-snapping and out-bluffing the opponent can be a big component in getting a little bit of extra win rate, a little bit of extra cube rate, and it still performs decently well all across top Infinite, but it does tell me that it could be a more rewarding deck to run and to learn, because as you get better with it, you'll be able to perform a little bit better with it as well. We're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games with the deck, and then we'll wrap it up with an overall ranking for each deck. All right, next up we have When I Lose, I Whine on the Internet. The first location, Bar with No Name, beautiful for like a sneaky Storm. We have the White Widow, we have Legion, to be able to rip it away. So if it just looks like we're losing the game, we just hold off and do Legion in the left and then call it a day. Let's go ahead and go White Widow to the right. We have the perfect lineup. I'm gonna snap into it. We have the perfect Storm, War Machine, Legion lineup. Let's see if they stick it out for us. Since we're snapping so early, maybe it's fine. We can probably get the 2 cubes off of it. But we'll see. So White Widow coming down. Bifrost we won't have to worry about with Bar with No Name. Ooh, Dark Dimension. So we can go Storm. Actually, I'm going to go Storm into Bar with No Name. Maybe make them think that we don't have the Legion for it. By ripping away early, giving them a turn to play into the Storm lane. So Lady Sif comes down. It is a hella deck. They're going to have a hell of a bad time by not being able to get the hella resummon down because of our beautiful War Machine here. Let's go ahead and go War Machine. Of course, with Bifrost, everything is going to push out of the flooded lane, which is fine. We have the War Machine, so we can do the Legion, and we'll be able to guarantee win this one. I don't see any way around it from a pretty standard Hella deck, or even just a discard deck, without having the last turn. So they played a card into Dark Dimension? Craziness. We're gonna rip away. Okay, they said we're out. We'll go ahead and take the 2. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Juji. They emoted before I could really process what those letters were. Junji. I can feel the roast happening now. I don't know how to pronounce it. Their first card is Korg. We have our Nebula. We do have Legion, so with this being Korg, we have to worry about the Hawk stuff. We can always Legion into the Isle of Silence. We don't have very many ongoings except for like a War Machine, and I still don't think that's all that impressive. Is it bad form to snap? We're gonna go ahead and snap. I always feel bad. The people that recognize me, I feel bad snapping on them. Because sometimes it can be so frustrating. Alright, they do stick it out. The double White Widow is beautiful on their end. But maybe it's beautiful on ours as well. Let's see. They're getting congested rather quickly. Our second goes to the right. Theirs goes to the left. We have Crossbones. Ooh, we lost our Legion. That's rough. So no more Legion. We could rip away Sinister London. Play War Machine right next turn. And then that allows us to gauge. That would mean they're Hawk, unless they play it miraculously somehow on 4. They wouldn't be able to get it into mid. They'd only be able to play it into the right lane, because the left would end up being non-useful for them. Black Widow, unfortunate. We don't get any kind of card draw here. Let's go the Widow's Bite. Let's go War Machine to the right. And we do have the freedom to open up and play into mid, whether that be a Crossbones or whatever we find. Miss Marvel, interesting. So War Machine, we actually would have won mid off of it. But now we have to do like a sub-pseudo bad play with like a Crossbones. And then that still opens up the door for Infinite on the final turn. Black Bolt, we're going to lose our Jubilee. Thank goodness it was not Moon Knight. That could have been the 50-50. We'll take the Infinite discard. And we will not be mad when we play Infinite left. And then that will allow us that room to win. So we already have the right lane locked in. I assume that Hawk is kind of in their back pocket. This is going to go up to 19. With a 7, they only go up to 16. So stature plus Hawk to the right would not be able to do it for them. We'll take the 2 cubes and we'll go ahead and jump over into the next deck. So for ranking all 4 decks, the one that I think has the most potential, the most consistency, is going to be easiest for the most players, is going to be a Deadpool Hulkbuster Destroy Arana build. This one has a lot of power output. It dodges a lot of the clutter stuff, so we don't have to worry about those lines. It can outpower and outmaneuver a potential Hella build if you hit your high roll high enough. And so it can really hold its own against most decks. If the opponent is doing a Human Torch movement Living Tribunal, you have the Killmonger to be able to right size and offset their massive Human Torch, and so then you can just swing those games back in your favor as a result. So this one stands at rank number 1. Rank number 2, I'm going to go into my better judgment. I'm going to say the pure movement Arana build. This one has so much high roll potential, and if you're able to navigate it well, you can really start exploding a lot of power on the board. That being said, it is a little bit harder to run. You have to be able to anticipate what your opponent's playing, be able to know when to pick up your cards to dodge those counter tools, and that sort of thing. But I think it is going to be a very rewarding deck to learn, and you can explode a lot of power, forcing the opponent to have to respect what you can put out. So if they're running a Hella deck, you can outmatch their power output quite dramatically with all of the movements that you do have in hand. For rank number 3, I know that the stats don't reflect it in all of Infinite, but it's going to be my personal favorite in Clutter. Clutter is one of those that is, once you learn it, is so oppressive and so strong against your opponent. With this one in particular, you have to be very patient and hold off on dropping your movement cards early. A dagger mid-game is not going to do anything near what you need it to versus dropping it last turn where you get a double movement. It's going to be 24 power instead of like a double movement mid-game, and it ends up being 6 or 9. I think this is rank number 3. For me, I enjoyed this version and this archetype the most, but I think in general or most matches, it probably comes in around 3rd, bringing our final deck to the War Machine deck. This one, I feel like it's very gimmicky. I know that it has pretty good stats. It can really pump out a lot of power with the Infinite, and so it has a lot of just good raw value output. And you can do some really cheeky, really fun things with the Legion line. Sometimes it just feels like it'll fall flat if you don't draw your ideal cards. Jubilee does help with that, being able to get further reach into War Machine, into Legion, so that you can get your Infinite, your Ebony Maw down, but without any counterplay and without being able to go incredibly tall. I feel like sometimes you're just caught with your pants down if the opponent can do a really big explosive last turn play. So something like the Human Torch movement, if they have Madam Web, you're not going to always be able to outshine and completely lock them out. So I think that is where this one falls short. Although still incredibly good stats, I still think it is a very worthwhile deck to run. But with that, we're going to go ahead and end the video here. Please let me know what you thought of this format in the comment section down below. Thank you guys, as always, for being here. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.